A customer complained 3 times about cold food, then tipped the kitchen chefs and complained about me. These two top, guy and girl, came in tonight, a pretty slow Sunday evening. All goes well and the girl jokes around with me, while her dad, grandpa, unsure of ages, is generally easygoing. At first. The first problem is when the girl's food comes out. The guy says her fries are cold. I tell them, oh, that's no good, let me have them replate your salmon and veggies so you can still eat while we cook up a fresh batch of fries. This was my first mistake, not realizing he wanted fresh fries on top of the cold ones, so they had 2 orders of fries. I ran it back to the kitchen and asked our expo to have them make new fries while we replate the dish. Thankfully, they had fries coming up then, so they fixed everything up and I ran it back out. Literally 2 minutes tops. I have her check to ensure they're fresh. She says yes, thank you. But then the guy says his rice and quinoa is cold. I say, oh no, I don't know what's happening with cold food, that's not okay. Let me make a new batch of that and I'll relay the message to my manager and the chefs about the food coming out cold this way. The guy then just decides to get combative for no reason and says I'm not coming up with this stuff out of my head. Which? I didn't understand what that even meant, so I said no, I understand and I'm sorry, I'm going to get new rice. I leave his plate for him and just go get an extra side of rice and quinoa so he doesn't have to stop eating. I bring it out. Fresh. He then says, this is ridiculous at this point and I don't even want you to do anything about it because we keep going back and forth on the food, but my salmon is dry while hers, the girl he's with, is moist. He was visibly annoyed and I was so lost on what else to do other than get him a manager, which, BTW, I'd already told one of the 2 managers on shift to check on him after the rice was cold. I say I'm so sorry, and he says no, I just want you to see what I'm seeing. It's dry. Right? His tone has been gradually shifting into anger from the first incident with the fries, and I can tell he's not going to be happy with anything I do. I say, unfortunately sir, I don't know as I don't make the food, so let me tell the chef again and my manager, again. He says I didn't say you made the food, you don't have to agree with me. Never mind. But it's dry and you should be able to see that as a consumer. It honestly looked like regular salmon to me. I eat our salmon all the time and it's bomb, but I obviously take his word and tell my manager again. He's not going over to the table. When I asked what the guy told him when he checked on him, he said he just walked by and the guy was eating his food just fine, so they didn't talk. Okay, so I tell the second manager and ask him to check on the table. He walks by. Doesn't speak to the table. Just looks at the table to see if he's eating and then tells me he calmed his meal. I asked what the guy told him and he said nothing, they didn't talk. Jesus Christ. Neither manager wants to speak to this table. The 4th time I go up to this table after they've gotten their meals, it really just goes off the rails. I ask how everything is, and the guy immediately starts berating me saying how do I think it's going and I already told you how it was going, meanwhile still eating his food. He's very combative at this point and my other tables are turning to glance, so I say okay, I'm sorry, I was just checking, and he says you're checking now that we're almost done? What's that going to do? You've done nothing and no one in this restaurant has come to help make this right. I say, honestly sir, I did tell my managers and asked them to come speak with you. I'm sorry that they haven't and I will go get them again. At this point he's right, it's ridiculous I've had to ask them 3 times. But he doesn't know I've asked 3 times for my managers to step in and check on him. In his mind, I've done nothing but bring 2 fresh items they said were cold and haven't done anything about the dry salmon that he said he doesn't want to be fixed. Once he heard I had asked for a manager and hadn't had one come, he got very insistent about needing the corporate phone number and started getting louder, demanding the names and positions of the managers. Are they general managers? Shift managers? Names. I give their names that he's demanding and say okay, hold on, and leave to get a manager again because clearly, I can't de-escalate this situation on my own. I tell my managers that he's demanding the corporate number and has their names, and only then does one of them finally intervene. He proceeds to talk to this table for, I'm not kidding, 25 minutes. The table next to them is visibly uncomfortable and keep turning around to look at the guy who's complaining for so long, then make eye contact with me. They then ask for the check and pull me aside to tell me not to worry about miserable people like that. Finally, my manager comes back from speaking with them, and the guy and his daughter or whatever start to leave. They had their food all boxed up to go, despite it being terrible, and had their entire meals comped. Obviously. But then the guy starts pulling cash out and waits at the very front to make sure he tips the kitchen staff and the manager. He then leaves smiling and waving. I see all of this and ask my manager if he tipped him and the chefs. He says yes. I asked what his issue was with me then, and what did you guys talk about for so long? He says you took the girl's plate to get new fries instead of leaving it and getting extra ones, and he said you were in no rush to help, and had no urgency. The expo overheard and jumped in to back me up on getting the fresh fries and rice ASAP. I had had it at this point. I was incredibly stressed out as it is, and this table made me feel awful, and now it seemed like my manager who spoke to the guy was agreeing that I should have done things differently. So I told both managers honestly, I did ask both of you guys to check on him several times and you guys both waited until he berated me about corporate and wanted your names. Waited until my other tables were visibly uncomfortable. I'm actually very upset and I need to go calm down. One manager was silent while the other one argued with me that I never asked him to talk to the table. I reiterated that I did, more than once, then went to the back to calm down. I finished my shift and left, but I'm working on my master's project at 2 AM now and have to fucking teach tomorrow in a few hours because it's so expensive out here. I have to have 2 jobs in school. And these people just push me over the edge sometimes.